Welcome to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. This show will take you from confusion to clarity, confidence and emotional healing to a joyful pregnancy. This is the place where we uncover the real truth about fertility and why preparing for conception, mind, body and soul, is more important than ever. With honest, empowering conversations, we'll explore the hidden factors impacting fertility and how a holistic approach can help you take back control of your journey. Whether you're trying naturally, navigating IVF, or just starting out, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, and you're already on your way. So let's walk this path together. Hi everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Sue Ritchie, holistic health and fertility specialist, and I'm really delighted that you're joining me today because I want to talk today about something that probably doesn't get spoken about very much when it comes to fertility conversations, but it really does underpin everything, and that's your relationship with yourself. Because, self-love isn't just a sort of nice idea, and it's not just about self-care or taking time out. It's actually one of the most powerful foundations for your health, your fertility, and also, as you experience it and to create the right environment as you step into parenthood. It's about the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat your body, whether you feel safe, supported, and good enough. All of this creates a biological and emotional environment in your body. And the thing is, your body responds accordingly. It's always listening. So in today's episode, we're really going to be exploring what self-love really means. How a lack of it can actually impact your body and your fertility, what actually begins to shift when you start to build a much better relationship with yourself. And I'm also going to talk about some simple, really gentle ways that you can, begin to move towards having a deeper, more kinder and loving relationship with yourself. And, I have to, stress it's not about perfection, but it is about consistency. And it's not about getting everything right. We're human beings, we're not perfect. But it is about creating a foundation that supports not just conception, but the kind of motherhood, but also, the life you want to truly step into as well. So what does self-love really, really mean? I know that, so often those words can perhaps feel a bit fluffy or, maybe they feel self-indulgent, I don't know. And, quite often we think, loving ourselves, isn't it a bit selfish? You might be thinking that, but the reality is that, it's one of the most important foundations for your health, your fertility, but also as your future as a parent too. And, whilst bubble baths and massages are, a nice element of self-care, it's not just about those things. It's about how you speak to yourself on a daily basis, how you treat your body, whether you truly listen to its needs, and whether you actually feel safe and supported, within yourself. And self-love is the relationship you have with yourself. And what you may not realize is, your body is always listening. So what does a lack of self-love look like and feel like? Well, if you're constantly being critical of yourself, feeling not good enough, you may be frustrated, burdened with guilt, suffering, maybe with anxiety and feeling emotionally exhausted. It can be some and it can be all of those things. And, you might be recognizing some of those things in yourself now, but please let me assure you, you're definitely, definitely, definitely not alone. Probably all of us have experienced some or all of these things at some time in our lives. And, I personally am no exception either. And, I have a very vicious inner critic and, it can still jump up and get me at times. And, there are still times when I personally don't feel good enough either. So, I suppose, how does a lack of self-love actually, impact your body physically? We're talking about fertility. So, the physical body obviously, is a key element there. Well, the first thing is it can create stress. And, when you're stressed, that activates your fight and flight system. And, that system that runs in our body, it's a very primeval system, going back to early man and, cavemen and things like that. And it's really there to, help us to really, move away, run away, and get away from danger as quickly as we possibly can. So in order to, enable our bodies to be able to do that, it really just shuts down all the systems that it doesn't need in order to get us to run fast. And that includes our reproductive system, because it doesn't seem, sensibly really. Our body isn't thinking that, when you're running for your life, trying to save your life, that, creating new life is a good idea. And cortisol, that's a hormone in your body, that increases when you're stressed, and that disrupts your hormonal balance. It also affects ovulation, and it also has an impact on sperm health too. And when you have cortisol in the body, that creates inflammation. And I'm sure you're aware that, inflammation is a big factor that gets in the way of trying to conceive. It also will, result in you not sleeping so well, and also can impact on your gut health, which then means that your body's not really, absorbing all the nutrients that it needs from the food that you're eating. And, when you're in this place, if you like, your body doesn't feel safe. And when it doesn't feel safe, it's so much harder for it to really sort of prioritize creating a new life. Now, the thing about, not loving yourself is that it's so easy for you to really, be neglecting your own needs. You probably won't be, prioritizing eating healthy food, nourishing your body properly, because, other things tend to get to be a higher priority. You might be overworked, you might be overworking, you might be actually what I call being addicted to busyness, which is something that I've experienced. You're constantly busy all of the time, never taking any time out for yourself. Plus, the other big factor is that you won't be putting boundaries in place. And, you could be finding it really difficult to say no to people and situations, if you like, where actually deep inside you really want to say no. So when you don't feel worthy, it's very hard to consistently take care of yourself and be kind to yourself in the way that your body really needs. And for me, that led to me having a big health wake-up call about 15 years ago. And, for me, I'm very grateful, actually. It might seem a bit strange, but I'm really grateful for that experience, because it really led to me really learning about, how I hadn't been treating myself kindly, how I wasn't looking after myself properly, and how I really hadn't been loving myself properly. And, and that shifted me into making some big changes. So what happens when you start to love yourself more? How does it impact both, not only your health, but your fertility? Well, I think a big thing is, you're going to find your nervous system really starts to calm down. And, this is going to allow your body to really sort of move into that state where you can really rest and relax and be receiving as well. The good thing is as well is your home hormones will start to rebalance, which is going to, obviously, for conception is good. You're going to be sleeping a lot better. You're going to be feeling more energized. And, your digestion's going to improve as well. And of course, that means, if you have poor gut health, which is impacted by stress and a lot of other things around it in life, then you're going to be able to absorb nutrients better from the food that you're eating, which of course is really important because, your body needs to be well nourished to be able to be ready for conception. And I think key as well is that, you're going to be in a place where you're going to be making better and more consistent, healthy choices because, you're going to find you'll have a stronger connection, with your body. You're going to be able to more, to listen to it, to connect to it, and really recognize its needs. And, in simple terms, self-love really creates a good internal environment where your body just feels safe enough to conceive. And that whole concept of safety is really important when it comes to conception. So you're probably thinking, well, how do I start to love myself more? And I think it's key here is that we have to keep things realistic and it's not about becoming overwhelmed. But the reality is, it's not going to be something that, you're going to shift into that place of loving yourself completely overnight. That's just not realistic at all. And, it's also, it's not going to be perfect either. And, that negative voice is going to pop up at times. And, you will find yourself beating yourself up when you've done things wrong. That's inevitable. But the key really is it's not about perfection, but it's really about awareness. Because when those things happen and you actually notice them and you're aware of them, then you can actually turn things around and change the narrative, if you like, that you're giving yourself because you've become aware that it's become negative and not kind. And I think, the other thing is that, you have to treat yourself like you would treat your best friend or a friend, because some of the things we say to ourselves when we don't love ourselves, we'd never, ever say that to anybody that we loved or any of our friends. We just wouldn't do that. So, I think it's also a case of, starting to become your own best friend, if you like, and building yourself up and giving yourself pats on the back and celebrating things as well. And to me, it's just the key really is to take just small intentional steps, and it's about starting with one thing. And to me, really, as I've said really before, the key steps is just awareness. The more you become aware, that negative voice in your head, every time you notice it, stop. And I tell you to say, right, take the negative thing that it says and turn it into a positive. You can also actually, in situations where your negative voice is telling, well, you shouldn't do that, or that's not going to, or that's a bit scary, or this is a bit, this isn't going to be right. Thank your negative voice for its advice and say, I'm okay. I've got this. I don't need your advice. And, really key, I think, is, particularly, if you're on your own and you're in a space where you can actually say the positive version out loud um, to yourself, then that is the best thing to do, because when we actually vocalize, those things, it actually goes in, if you like, much deeper into our mental state, if you like. And, say it out loud, but also say it in a very kind, caring, and loving voice, not a horrible, angry, nasty one. And, one thing is wake up. When you wake up each morning, tell yourself how amazing and wonderful you are. Oh, I know it sounds a bit, it might sound a bit silly, but actually, it really has a big effect on you when you start doing that every day. And also, tell yourself that you're looking forward to having an amazing day when everything is going to go really well. And the more you do that every day, you will see start to things to shift. Your day will shift because you've actually shifted the mindset, if you like, of how you're starting the day. And I think one thing that I love is a process of, and you can do this in the bathroom in the morning when you're sort of getting ready, or, in the evening when you're getting ready for bed. But stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself, look at your reflection deeply, and look, deep into your own eyes and tell yourself, I love you. But, say it with real meaning and real feeling, and make it a regular habit that you do every morning or even every evening. Make it a habit like, you brush your teeth every day, twice a day. So it becomes the same sort of habit that you just do all of the time. And one thing that I know, when you're struggling to conceive, it can be so easy to really start to get angry, to get frustrated, and particularly getting angry and frustrated with your body. It's like, why aren't you just doing whatever uh, like, other people's bodies are able to do for them and conceive a child? Why can't you do that for me? And start to get into a place of actually speaking kindly to your body, and make that shift from saying, what's wrong with me, to what does my body need right now? And really listen to your body, connect in with it. And, it's very wise. And the more you connect in with it, you'll start to understand more about what its needs are. And I think a big one is the whole thing of nourishment, starting, nourishing your body and nourishing it from a place of love and care, and making the choice to eat healthy, nutritious foods because you care about your body. Because if you do that, then your body is going to support you much better. And you might find then when you start making these really good choices that some people might want to you know share some negative comments, if you like, to you about it. Well, why are you doing that? Why, it's not important, is it? And it's going to be really important here. I talked about boundaries earlier. It's going to be really important for you to actually, step into that boundary, and, stand in your decision of what you're doing, because you're doing it to take really good care of your body. And I think a big thing is that, if you're, are busy and you're working a lot and you're constantly busy, is create some quiet space, and also some time just for yourself to sit and reflect, and, just be at one with yourself. And, it doesn't matter if just minutes, just 5 or 10 minutes a day, then it's a really good practice to bring that to yourself each time. Not with your phone, get your phone away, get away from your phone, and just, sit quietly. And I think the key thing as well is, we tend to so often put so much pressure on ourselves. And I think especially when we're, trying to conceive as well, we're trying to do everything, we're trying to do everything right. But, it really is important that you let go of that need to do everything right, because your body doesn't actually need perfection. It really just needs support. And, I just say, get started on practicing, and just practice one of these things that I've suggested. Pick one, practice it daily, make it a consistent thing that you do every day. And, that's all it takes. Just start to make the shift into loving yourself more. And, at the beginning, I mentioned that, stepping into a place of self-love is important for you as you step into becoming a parent. But it's also going to have a big benefit for your future child too. You see, your emotional state really shapes your internal environment, and this doesn't only matter for conception, but it also matters when you're pregnant, because I'm sure you're possibly aware that, when a baby is in your womb, it's actually, sensing and feeling things that are going on around them and in your body whilst they're growing in the womb. And as you move into that role of motherhood, having self-love is just going to help you to really cope so much better with any challenges that, unfortunately, inevitably probably will be coming along. And, life is never perfect, unfortunately. And, it's going to influence how you respond to your child, but it also have an impact on, how regulated and calm you feel. And I'm sure you're going to agree that, both you and your child are going to benefit hugely from you being in that place and that state of mind. So, what about your child? How are they going to benefit from you loving yourself? Well, a couple of years ago, I don't know, it's in a magazine, I think, or it might have been in a paper or something, I'm not sure now. But this article actually stuck with me because it was written by a woman who had a 3-year-old daughter. And she was recounting a situation where she suddenly realized from something that her daughter said to her that how even young children really pick up on things that perhaps we wouldn't expect them to. In fact, she was, shocked really and quite taken aback because her daughter said to her one day after she'd been speaking to her friend and she was putting herself down. And her daughter just piped up and said, "Mummy, why do you always say bad things about yourself?" And you can imagine, it was like, gosh, it was a real, one of those self-realization things of noticing, the fact that, her daughter had noticed that she doesn't talk to herself very kindly and she doesn't take care of, herself. And, I know personally that I wish that, I had known far more about the importance of self-love when I had my children. And you see, children learn their self-worth from you, and, your relationship with yourself just really becomes their blueprint. And, I really, want to ask you to really start treating yourself well. Firstly, because you're absolutely, definitely worth it. And also because your future child deserves it too. So as we sort of come, getting towards the end of the show, I just want you to know that, you know, your body isn't something that you really need to be fighting against. It's something to take care of, to nurture, to give it support, and for it to feel safe in. And you see, when you begin to build that loving relationship with yourself, uh, everything will shift. I know that might be difficult to believe when you're in the place where you are now, but it really will start to shift. But it's not just about shifting from the point of view of your fertility, but it's actually going to be shifting your whole experience of, the journey, not only to parenthood, but also, your journey in life too. And loving yourself isn't about just waking up one day suddenly feeling perfect. It's about showing up for yourself little by little every single day. And it's very much about learning how to treat yourself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that, you offer to someone that you love. And, the important thing is just start small and, start talking to yourself in a way that, builds you up. And don't worry about making mistakes. We all make mistakes, but, they're just opportunities for us to learn from. And, as human beings, we all make mistakes, but that's okay. And, don't be hard on yourself. And really take the time, when you feel you've done something well, even if it's the smallest thing, give yourself a pat on the back celebrate. And certainly, when you feel you've made mistakes, be kind and forgiving to yourself as well, because it really doesn't matter. And the key to loving yourself really is to, start accepting yourself for who you are. We all have good points, we all have bad points, but all of those make us who we really are as a person. And, we have to accept the good bits and also the bits that about ourselves that we don't like either. And to me, acceptance is really the first very powerful step to moving to a place of loving yourself. And the key is as well is to give yourself time. Self-love isn't, a destination. It really is a journey. And just remember, you are worth it and you're certainly good enough, just as you are. And, coming to the end now. So I just want to say that, if you feel that you'd like any support, then, this is quite a difficult subject sometimes, then I'm really here to support you. And all you've got to do is just actually reach out. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. And if this episode has, resonated with you and you think, there is someone that who would really benefit from listening to it, then please do, pass it on to them. And if you're ready to really take a more conscious, holistic approach to your fertility journey, I'd love to walk that path with you. So we're not just talking about conception, we're talking about creating healthy, happy couples to make healthy, happy babies. So, we're at the end of this episode, and for this month, but I'd love you to join me again next month. So please stay curious, please stay hopeful, and, take very good care of yourself and really just get started on practicing one of those things that will help you to start moving into loving yourself more. So thank you very much, and do take good care. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Conception Show with me, Sue Ritchie. To stay informed and inspired, be sure to tune in every third Tuesday of the month at 7:30 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and sign up for my newsletter for helpful tips on boosting fertility and preparing for positive, empowered parenthood. If you're ready for more support, connect with me on social media on Instagram and LinkedIn and at Optimum Fertility, or visit my website at sue-ritchie.com.